Hello everybody! Today's video is going to show you how to do borders and rosettes. There are two types of borders that we're going to go over. For the shell border, you want to hold your bag, your icing bag, at an angle to your practice board. About a 45-degree angle. What you're going to do is you're going to squeeze out icing until it clumps up and then drag the tail down. At the base of the first shell, you're going to start the second shell, just like this. Notice how my bag's at a 45-degree angle. This is a very simple and elegant border once you get the technique down, and can be used on almost any type of cake. The second border that we're going to do is the rope border. As you can see here, we have your shell and your rope down here. Now both of them are the same techniques. You're going to hold your bag at a 45-degree angle. You're going to wait for a buildup of icing before you curve it. It's only a slight curve. And then the second shape is going to start right in the center of your curve and go over the tail like this. You're going to start right in the center, build up, go over the tail. You want to use the same amount of pressure as you were using for the shell, not too much. The only difference is a slight curve. Here are some mess-ups that you want to try to avoid when making your borders. You don't want to squeeze out way too much, like that, or otherwise you're not going to get the definition that you want. As well, you want to try and hold it center. You don't want to try to squiggle your tips at all. You want to try to keep them as straight as possible when you're doing it, like this. By squiggling it at all, it doesn't make it look as professional as it should. Once you've perfected your border technique, it's time to put them on a cake. What I like to do is to put the bottom border on first, just because it's easier, because sometimes the top border might get in your way. On this particular cake, I'm going to do a rope border on the bottom and a shell border on the top rim. So just like in practice, you want to hold your bag at a 45-degree angle, squeeze your tip, and then make your shapes. Sometimes it's going to be awkward depending on your cake, how the border looks in the beginning. Once you get into a rhythm, however, it's much easier to decorate. You just have to find that rhythm. And as you can see here, you want to wait for your frosting to build up and then put it over the tail. If you also notice, I didn't make the bottom edge of my cake exact when I was frosting it, because I knew that this border was going to cover up any imperfections. So if you know beforehand of any borders or any flowers that are going to cover up imperfections, you don't have to put as much effort into frosting it and making it look perfect than you think you have to. Once you have finished your entire bottom border, it's time to do the top border. Now generally you can do the same borders on both, or you don't have to put a top border on your cake. I'm going to do one just to show you how you can use both the borders that I showed and displayed and taught you. So on the top here, we're going to put on the shell border. And again, you want to hold your bag at a 45-degree angle, and you want to wait for the frosting to build up before you put the tail on it. And once you put on the tail, you're going to start and put on the second one. And you go all around the cake like this, making these little shells. And as you see, you can turn your cake as necessary. If you do happen to make a mistake, you can generally either just leave it, if it's not a huge mistake, or you could try to scrape off the icing in that one particular spot, and then start again, redo that shell. The important thing about decorating a cake is make sure that you don't get lazy going around. You want to make sure that you make this form for every single shell around the cake. Make sure that the icing builds up and you drag the tail every time. You don't want to get lazy and make slappy shells on part of the cake or on one half of the cake. Really try to do the technique all the way around. These borders as well can go on any type of cake that you want, any shape. Squares, triangles. I just happen to pick a circular cake. As you get closer to the ending, or to where you started, you can see that sometimes it's difficult to end. The spacing might be weird or might not be exact. Just try to do your best with filling the space that you can and making it look as professional as possible. And there you have your borders on your cake. The third technique that we're going to learn is how to make rosettes. For the rosette, you want to change your tip to a number 16 tip. And again, you're going to continue to use your medium consistency icing. To make a rosette, you want to hold your bag straight up and down or perpendicular to the surface that you're going to put your rosette on. Then you want to gently squeeze out icing until you have a buildup. It's going to make a star shape. Once you have that buildup of icing, you want to drag the tip around that buildup in one full circle or revolution to make your rosette. What you want to avoid doing is once you have your buildup and you're dragging it around, you want to avoid causing a tip at the end of your rosette like this. And how to prevent having a tip like that is to simply make your buildup, drag your icing around, and as you get closer to your stopping point, you want to loosen up on your squeeze of the icing until eventually you're not even squeezing any out, and you're simply just dragging the icing along until it doesn't make a tip. Just like that. These rosettes are kind of small, but they make nice little centerpieces for your cakes, or they could even be used as a border if you so desire. So just like that. Once you have perfected your rosette technique on your practice board, it's time to put them on your cake. I'm going to use these rosettes as a centerpiece for this cake. And again, it's the same exact technique that you used on your practice board. You're going to hold your bag perpendicular to your surface and drag the icing around once you have that buildup. I'm just going to stick a couple on here to show as a centerpiece. And this just adds a little bit of an elegant touch to a cake. And here's your finished cake. You used all the techniques that you learned, your rope border along the bottom, your shell border along the top, and the rosettes as the centerpiece.